Manufacturers are facing extraordinary challenges today. With labor shortages, supply chain disruptions, and a changing workforce, complex industrial technology doesn't cut it on the front line. What's needed is a new way of working that will not only meet throughput goals, but change the shop floor culture to one of winning, where every worker feels they play a part in achieving the company's goals for success. What's needed is Redzone, the connected workforce solution.
Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me this week are Anna Wells and Jeff Ranke. We each have more than 20 years of experience covering the manufacturing industry. Every week, we take the 5 biggest stories in the industry and discuss the implications they have on the industry going forward. Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube at IEN Magazine so you can get a notification whenever we go live. Jeff, how are you doing this week? How was your break?
Break was fantastic. Struggling a little bit today.
Yeah.
But glad we got this going. This usually gets the blood flowing a little bit more.
Yeah, perks you up a little bit.
Exactly.
That and I'm like just shoveling coffee grounds into my mouth. Like if there's any in my teeth, I'm sorry. It just wasn't working any other way. Anna, how are you doing this week?
Doing great.
Yeah.
Fresh off vacation, feeling good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't it seemed like you were having such a good time. I'm like, well, she's just going to move there. They're going to set up shop. Just
like in the
the
Black Hills.
Yeah. IEN coming to you from South Dakota.
I don't know about that, but
Are you in a homestead?
No, I could not be effective at that. Could you imagine me like
off the grid
with animals and stuff? Like no.
I'd watch that show.
Yeah.
You could just you could hope to be so bad at homesteading that you make it on one of those shows where they just do it all for you, right?
Yeah, that's true. My friend got me a succulent as a birthday gift last year, and those are supposed to be impossible to kill, and I did kill it. So
what are we like?
We would be dead like within 6 months. My family.
We have those family members too, where no matter what, like they buy you some sort of plant, and then the next thing they always buy you one that's slightly easier to take care of because you're like, no, I killed the air plants. Oh well, a succulent.
Yeah,
there's no way you can kill that, and then you kill that, and it's just like, please, please just stop.
Just give me an avocado and I'll eat it. That's like as best I can do.
Right? I'm in a different part of the circle of life here. All right. Well, before we get started with our top story this week, we have a word from our new sponsor. This week's episode is brought to you by Redzone. Watching employees walk away shortly after spending ample resources training them is incredibly frustrating. And while harder to spot, unengaged or unproductive employees also negatively impact the return on labor investment. A new webinar from Redzone features experts who discuss the roots of high turnover in manufacturing, how successful leaders support growth for employees, and methods for improving operational visibility. So, watch the webinar, How Coil Specialist Tackled Employee Reliability by, quote, leading well, right now. There's a link to download the video in the body copy and in the live chat. And now, our first story. Jabil plans to create nearly 1,200 jobs in North Carolina with manufacturing investment. Electronics maker Jabil says it will create 1,200 jobs in North Carolina when it spends $500 million to build a factory to support cloud computing and AI data centers. The site will be located in Rowan County, about 45 miles northeast of Charlotte. The investment will span several years, but the company hopes to spend $264 million and create 1,181 jobs by the end of 2030. The company has 30 locations in the U.S., including 3 already in North Carolina that employ about 1,000 workers. The minimum average wage for the new jobs will be about $62,000 per year. Jeff, it looks like the 2 finalists for this project were North Carolina and Florida, where Jabil is actually based. So, are you surprised that Florida, home of the headquarters, missed out?
I mean, this is they've got places all over the country. They have facilities in North Carolina already. So Yes and no. One of the things that was kind of surprising is whenever a company picks their final destination for these, there's some different factors that obviously have to play a role. As soon as I hear cloud and AI, I think about utilities and power.
Oh, yeah.
And when you look at these two states, it is interesting because Florida is like a top 5 when it comes to energy efficiency, resiliency, reliability. North Carolina, like in the bottom third as far as states go. So that was very surprising to me. That if you had the option there and you're looking at these two specific areas that you're building the foundation for this facility around, that was surprising. Until you look a little bit more closely, too, at things that are going on in Rowan County in North Carolina. While maybe they do have some issues or some struggles with infrastructure and energy and utilities, this is an area that has like 71% higher manufacturing wages compared to the national average, 48% more manufacturing establishments compared to the national average, 168 other factories. So it's got this huge legacy of manufacturing to build around.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at all of the different factors, obviously that played a big part in Jabil's decision. The other thing too, when you look at North Carolina from an energy perspective, they're kind of unique because even though with a lot of that coastal geography that they have and a lot of the storms that come through contribute to some of the issues they have from a grid resiliency, they're also amongst the tops when it comes to the percentage of power generated by nuclear and solar.
Okay.
So again, when you look at a lot of these companies, especially in the industrial sector, and they're looking at AI and they're looking at cloud and data centers and different ways to power them, this also could have played a role. So I thought it was just kind of interesting to see a lot of the different factors that were sort of maybe pro and con, or could have played a role, or Jabil just wanted it closer to something else they got going on in North Carolina. But there were some other factors maybe that they were looking at too there.
Well, so Anna, this initial investment, $264 million to create 1,181 jobs. And it's a $500 million investment. So does that mean like $236 million for the last 19 jobs?
Well, I'll just have to take your word for it, mathematician.
Well, it seemed interesting to me.
Get out the chalkboard.
Yeah, it just seemed interesting to me that by the end of 2030, they were going to spend about half, right? And create most of the jobs. And I was like, well, what are we doing with the rest of it?
Yeah, like why? Maybe just take that off the table.
Yeah, the average is going to be $62,000 for the first 1,800, but those last 19 are going to be premium roles.
You're going to want to wait for those.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot of cash to put up. North Carolina has been particularly aggressive when it comes to recruiting advanced manufacturing projects. According to the state, since 2021, new and expanding manufacturers have announced plans for nearly 62,000 new jobs and more than $55 billion in capital investment in North Carolina. So that's since 2021. That's a lot, man.
Yeah.
You know? And the state, they say that they have the largest advanced manufacturing workforce in the Southeast. It's something I think that's being sustained by North Carolina's population growth. If you look at what's happening there, NC is expected to be the 7th most populous state by the early 2030s, which I was surprised actually to see that.
Yeah.
When you compare this to Florida, I know they were going to head with Florida. I thought it was a unique comparison because, as you said, Jabil's headquarters are already in Florida. They have facilities there. They also have facilities in North Carolina. But if you look at the striking difference, between North Carolina's population and Florida's in terms of what that would bring to the workforce equation of this. After decades of growth in Florida, that state is starting to see a population decline. Not only are they seeing more deaths than births in Florida, they're also seeing a reverse trend in terms of net migration. More people moving out of the state.
People are leaving.
Than are moving in. Yeah. That was not the case with Florida for a very long time, like 5 decades or something. So suddenly these two don't seem so apples to apples when you look at it that way because, they're in the same region. They're both known for having like pretty robust manufacturing incentives and a footprint. But I think nowadays it's become an absolutely critical consideration to look at that workforce picture and say, like, do we have the folks to fill these positions? Because, again, it's not a foregone conclusion to say we can just bring this facility in and then automatically people will come and fill these jobs. We don't know that. You have to really look at that as part of a key decision-making factor there.
Completely agree. Well, and a lot of it came down to the money, right?
Right.
So state and local incentives from North Carolina total more than $21 million. Jabil could receive cash payments of $11.3 million over 12 years if it meets this investment and job creation thresholds. But I also found it interesting that if you notice, they kind of announced this like, hey, 1,200 jobs, $500 million investment. And then a few days later, they kind of released their softer than expected earnings report. And it was just like, but things are going to be fine. And a lot of people expect things to be fine. One person, according to the Tampa Bay Times, a lack of the direct monetary incentives might be the reason that Florida missed out on the deal. They spoke with Mario Rodriguez, the director of business services for Career Source Tampa Bay, a workforce development agency. Rodriguez said that during the pandemic, many companies had interest in moving to Florida because the state remained open despite health concerns. But during that time, Florida's financial incentive program actually lapsed. And so, sometimes when we're talking about these deals, we're talking about tens, hundreds, multiple hundreds of millions of dollars in investment. And for Florida to lose to North Carolina for a $21 million deal, I mean, that's one thing that kind of stood out to me, right? Like that they lost out on this $500 million deal because of, $20 million in change in incentives. It was kind of surprising. I don't know if it was the same to you, Jeff.
I just didn't take it. Excuse me. I didn't take it as much as about the incentives as just right now, North Carolina. Anna mentioned the growth, but just also the legacy and the foundation that they're building in manufacturing.
Yeah. No, I think that you guys did a really good job of painting like really good pictures of exactly where they are. Where like North Carolina is becoming this booming manufacturing hub. And not that you're anti-jobs or anything, but it's like they actually looked realistically at the job situation and they're like, hey, maybe they're just not there.
You have to.
Yeah. And that has to be encouraging, right? They didn't just say like, we're going to build it, they're going to come.
Right.
All right. Well, our next most popular story. Town wants pop taxes to fund legal fight with battery manufacturer.
Such a confusing headline. Like, you really have to read it.
Oh, yeah. There's just a lot going on. We're not talking kettles. For more than a year, Green Charter Township has been locked in a legal battle with Goshen, a Chinese battery manufacturer. The name might sound familiar. In April 2023, Goshen announced plans to build a $2.6 billion EV battery factory near the town in central Michigan. Last year, after new leadership in Green Township changed its mind about the project, Goshen filed suit, alleging it stands to lose millions of dollars if the deal doesn't go through. Local leaders say the township's previous leaders never had authorization to execute that deal. They also have problems with the company's Chinese ties and other environmental concerns. As the town digs in for the court battle, it's looking for financial assistance from a rather unlikely source. According to the Detroit News, the township has submitted a request for $200,000 of cannabis excise tax revenue to help cover legal bills. That's about 30% of the cannabis tax funding awarded to the county by the state of Michigan. The problem is that Green Township doesn't even allow cannabis retailers within its boundaries, and it's causing a bit of controversy over whether Green wanting a piece of the action from an industry it has banned. If the plant is built as planned, it could create as many as 2,350 jobs while gobbling up about $175 million in state incentives. Jeff, does the town deserve access to funds it went out of its way to block?
Deserve is an interesting word, David.
Okay.
I mean, we could talk about this story, I think, for the entire length of that we usually set aside for this podcast. This is just really interesting to me. And I'll try not to get too much into the history, but it kind of makes sense in setting up where we're going here.
Oh, yeah.
When you look at all of the reasons why you could say you don't want this facility in your backyard if you're a small town, there's environmental concerns. Basically, it's a town of 3,200 people that's getting 2,300 new jobs.
Yeah.
It's okay for you to say, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Not here. I don't want this here. That you have that right. But whenever they talk to anybody about this, it all came down to the fact that it was a Chinese-owned company.
Yep.
And there was a lot of concerns over security and other stuff that just didn't connect with me. When you look at Goshen here being, they've got 2 other facilities in the U.S. They've got another facility in Germany. They're a global company. So when you get involved with that type of enterprise and you get this far into it, you can recall all the board members you want. There's still stuff in place that if you want to nix the deal, you're going to have to be held accountable for.
Yeah.
And that kind of is what's lacking here. More than them wanting legal help from these pot dispensary taxes that were collected, there just seems to be a lack of understanding that it's okay you didn't want this. You recalled the board members who voted for it.
Yeah.
You still sold land for $24 million.
Yeah.
You have to recoup that. There isn't even hardly a legal battle here. This is the way money works.
Yeah, no, it's like you broke the deal, you pay the penalty.
Yeah.
But they're like looking to borrow money to fight that decision. And so there might, which they've already kind of lost. And so I just think that the expenses might kind of get out of control.
Well, the things did you guys see that this did come to fruition?
Yeah.
They did get the $193,000 that they wanted from the county to help fund this legal battle.
Yeah.
And that spurred even more debate and conflict in this area because you had people protesting outside the county buildings on the 3rd of July, basically saying this isn't what this money was meant for. This money that was collected from this dispensary was supposed to go to fund like food shelters and other things like that. That's what this was positioned to us. That's why we voted to have this, these subsidies taken off or these taxes collected, and so that it could be dispersed this way. It wasn't meant to fund a legal battle over something that a lot of us aren't necessarily opposed to begin with.
Yeah. So
what this has created, and it's just when things get overly politicized, in my opinion, you just create more and more division, and it just keeps building and building. So you went from a situation from potentially having this sort of world-class manufacturing facility to now you just got everybody in upheaval, not only about the facility not being built, but also about funding the legal battle to make sure it doesn't work, and then figuring out what to do with this space because they bought 2 homes in the process that they're gonna knock down.
Yeah.
They sold those homes back to the township. I mean, there's so much unraveling here.
Yeah.
And it just feels like it's because people didn't take the time to really understand the situation. They really got tied up in the politics of it.
Yeah.
There's so many valid reasons
to
not want this. If you think $175 million in state incentives is ridiculous, that is fair.
Yeah.
That's not what their issue was. And that's where I struggle with this, I think, the most.
Well, and part of it was the legal battle started because they shut the water off, right? Like they wanted something like 700,000 gallons of water a day or something like that. And that was the one piece that the town could play, right? Like they could shut that off. And then as a result, like this whole legal battle ensued because of this broken deal, right? That they're trying to back out of. Anna, this was an odd mix for me because it pits a town against a massive company and basically the entire state because, this was a huge $175 million deal for the state. It was a huge win for Governor Whitmer. And there are just so many things at work here. And I hadn't heard the news that they greenlit it, gave them the $200,000. And to me, it just sounds like that money is already burned. It's such, and I mean, if there was, I know that we say it a lot, but if there was a story that we've heard before that rhymes with MoxCon, there's just a lot of that going on here. The only real difference, I guess, is that Goshen was actually going to build something.
Well, that's the thing is usually when these deals go bad, it's because the company uproots and says, actually, no thanks, we're not going to do it anymore, or they stick around for a couple of years and then they boot out of there. But it's much less common to see the town be like, oops.
Yeah. It's a weird clawback. It's a weird
clawback. And it's, seems like this town never wants to create an economic development deal ever again because you won't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to be honest, if they would have maybe just left it alone, I don't know, look at all the EV battery plants that have gone belly up in the last couple months alone. Maybe it would have just gone away on its own.
Yeah.
But yes, I think the main focus of this article is really absurd. And for the same reason, Jeff, as you outlined, because I noticed that as well, that generally speaking, when states collect this excise tax on legalized pot and they dispense it to the counties where these facilities lie, large quantities of that goes towards drug abuse prevention, education, healthcare, transportation, stuff that these communities really need. So I could see why the surrounding town that is the one where the dispensaries actually are would be extremely burned up about this. Like I would be too. And why this township thinks it's appropriate for them to use this money as some sort of a slush fund is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that, as you said, a judge already issued a preliminary ruling in favor of Goshen. So this is an appeal. This is money for an appeal.
Yeah.
So this is like very, very far from,
it's an
certain that they're gonna
even more unsafe bet.
Right. It is. It's like doubling down.
Mm-hmm.
I think unlikely that town might prevail. And for me, it just seems like this town screwed up. Whether it was incompetence or whether it was buyer's remorse, I don't know. I don't think
it's buyer's remorse. That's really what it's, and it sounds like politically motivated buyer's remorse. I think that everyone was on board for it, and then some of their algorithms started getting tweaked, and the brain started melting, and then they're like, no, we need to fight this anti-American factory that's going in our backyard.
Okay, cool. If that's how you feel, fight it before you say yes.
Yeah. I know, get a better understanding.
Well, and that was part of the reason, like a lot of these board members, the town board members were recalled because they felt there wasn't enough transparency in what was going on.
Yeah.
But again, when you bring Governor Whitmore in, it was a big win for her.
Yeah.
Which goes against, a lot of her political opponents right now with the Trump administration. Right now, there's this anti-EV movement that's sort of picking up a little bit too, which is kind of hard to understand.
Yeah.
But I think all of those factors played a part. And I think it just really blurred the vision here of what this could be or has the potential to be.
Yeah.
Again, we've outlined 5 different reasons why you can say no to this. That isn't why they're saying no. And that's what's most troubling to me.
True. Yeah. They're saying no because of blind outrage, right? But this deal, if you remember, had some stink on it since the beginning because there was the whole relationship, the company's supply chains relationship to the Xinjiang Uyghur region, sourcing lithium, aluminum foil, and other materials from operators suspected to have links to forced labor. That's a good reason to say no. But I don't know.
And doesn't it feel like, Goshen's going to have options here, right? There's other places in the U.S. that will embrace this facility with open arms.
Yeah.
And if this community would have said, look, we don't feel comfortable for these reasons. Here's your $24 million back for the property you bought. Good luck someplace else.
Yeah.
I feel like this could have been worked out a little bit more amicably. But when you dig your heels and you say, we don't want a Chinese company here. Yeah, what's Goshen going to do? They're going to say, no, we're not just out the 24. I think there was another something like $50 or $60 million in funds that they have allocated already for wages and everything else. So now they're going for that as well, I'm sure, in this lawsuit. And it all could have been avoided. And again, there's just, this place is a mess right now, and it seems very easy to have avoided.
Well, and a lot of the damages also come from the delays because if this project doesn't reach full employment by 2031, that $175 million is on the line. And it's crazy that the funding the state is providing in order to get the deal done is being used as to create a penalty for the township based on what the company stands to lose. It is crazy. And also, if you didn't earn it, you have no right to it. We didn't even talk about that part of the story where the entire state said yes to cannabis. And it gave every town the ability to say no if they wanted. And this town said no. And then they're like, but can we get a piece of, it's just so shameless. I don't know. It just smells bad.
Again, we could talk about this one.
Let's choose to throw the rest of it out. No, all right. Our next most popular story. EV maker's factory tour so popular, it needs a lottery. The Xiaomi is a Chinese consumer electronics giant. They recently dipped their toes into the automotive space. The company sells the SU7, a full-size sedan, and it's working on a YU7, a mid-size vehicle. So far, this company has sold just 135,000 vehicles in 2024. However, it expects to more than double that this year. But the fanfare surrounding the company is around its factory tours, which have become so popular that Xiaomi recently started a lottery just to get you in the door. According to Wired, It is part of an EV factory tour craze in China. Earlier this year, Xiaomi opened up to the public and started with 3 tours per month for 20 visitors at a time. Now, the company is doing them every day, including weekends, and when registration opened for tours in July, the company received 27,000 applications in one day. Part of the tour includes the ability to test the SU7 on a racetrack, where you can try out the vehicle's apparently insanely fast 0 to 60 acceleration. Other perks of this tour include, quote, affordable meals and a gift shop. Anna, how can U.S. manufacturers take a page from the Xiaomi playbook? I mean, I have a feeling that it might include more than bargain meals and just a banging gift shop.
I don't know. We're Americans. We like bargain meals.
That's
we like
right.
a good Costco hot dog or whatever.
If you can give us a $5 meal at
Yeah.
a factory tour, we're in. Yeah.
No, I think actually the key here is the contents of this tour, specifically this test drive.
Yeah.
Getting to test drive a vehicle on a racetrack, and I don't care which one it is, which vehicle it is, like I think that's definitely going to help you sell cars. It's just good marketing. And secondly, the EV narrative, I think, at least in the United States, has been so married to like the efficiency and sustainability thing that I think there have to be plenty of people out there who don't really know about the performance part of an electric and how much torque and how fast you can go. Like the acceleration, they're frankly pretty fun to drive.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people just don't, they just don't care. They're not hearing it. Imagine if a U.S. auto plant were to open their doors for this type of an experience instead of just the tour, but like the experience. Maybe it's a good ground game, I guess, to generate some interest in EVs for people who might never consider an electric. And by the way, that group of people, those who are considering EVs, has been plateauing here for a while, as we've covered. The new tax and spend bill that was just approved is phasing out the tax credit for buying electrics in September of this year. So the automakers who have a lot of money invested in these vehicles, they really need to reach into their bag of tricks and come up with some new ideas.
Yeah.
Because that tax credit is going to make a huge dent in their ability to sell these vehicles, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And again, to your point, like the American narrative around EVs and how they've almost been politicized at this point as well is a weird one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then you got Tesla dragging everybody down. True. I mean, not like...
Oh, yeah. More
and,
on that later.
Yeah, right. So I think automakers need to get a little bit more creative. So maybe why not open up their doors?
I really thought this would be a great idea for many U.S. manufacturers because they said some of the, I mean, obviously everybody wants to do the test drive, but people are also drawn to the incredible automation, the robotics that they're seeing on the show floor. And I mean, when we talk about how we are still constantly surprised with how many people still have that dirty manufacturing mentality, hey, invite them out there.
Sure.
Invite them to your facility. And, these can be very carefully curated tours as well, draw the line that makes them see all the cool stuff and maybe get to test drive a car. And I mean, I think it would go pretty far in terms of gaining a little bit of consumer sentiment. Jeff, were you surprised at this whole factory tour phenomena that's happening?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, when you think about once we want to go through a manufacturing plant and, trying to get in a lottery for it, that is pretty crazy. I think it underscores a couple of different things. First of all, genius by this company to create this type of stir for this.
Oh, yeah.
Because in addition to it just being great marketing for them, they're also in an ultra competitive market right now.
Yeah.
In addition to Tesla, who I believe is still number one, but definitely has some challenges, even in China. And then you've got BYD and you've got like 3 or 4 other state-backed startups for EVs. So getting yourself sort of more word of mouth recognition and more momentum built that way makes a ton of sense. So I think kudos to them for the way that they've handled this and processed it. The other thing I think this underscores is just this general, and Anna touched on it, but the general difference in mindsets towards EVs. When you look at China versus the US, McKinsey and company actually put out a study, said in China, 45% of respondents state that the next car will be an EV. This compares to 23% in Europe and 12% in the US.
Yeah.
So when you see that by almost a multiple of 4 in terms of how people are looking forward to owning an EV, yeah, I mean, this all kind of makes sense and falls into play there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, when I talked about how this could go a long way, I mean, and there's a lot of room to grow in the US. So I found a list of the top 5 factory tours in America. You want to hear them?
So I'm going to say at least 2 of them have to be beer breweries.
They're not, but I mean, I guess that they were all going to be food, and I was kind of surprised because Polaris in Minnesota, number 5, number 4, Pez in Connecticut.
Really?
Yeah. Number 3, the Kazoo factory in South Carolina.
Never heard of it.
No, apparently got to go. Next.
You know what a kazoo is.
What is this kazoo?
Yeah. Next year for the break, go to the Kazoo factory, road trip the other way.
Yeah.
Number 2, Jelly Belly in California, and number 1, actually the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory.
I've heard that's amazing.
That makes
in
sense.
Kentucky.
Yeah. Where's Jack Daniels on there?
I just
I thought that was a popular one. No.
I mean, I feel like
I can't believe like there's not a brewery on there.
Well, I feel like the reason that breweries and distilleries aren't on there is because there's obviously a much more limited amount of people that can go to that. Whereas when you're talking about bringing a whole family to Pez, Jelly Belly, you're talking about 5 instead of 2. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if you think about these and the kind of experience that they offer, that would serve almost any manufacturer, because nearly any manufacturer has something really cool and unique that they offer, and people want to see a part of it, right? It's kind of like why the Discovery Channel exists, right? Like all of a sudden people realize that they were interested in watching how motorcycles were made. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, my God, I bet they're interested in how other things are made. I also thought that, one manufacturer that could really stand to benefit from something like this, like embracing their, let's say, fading cool factor, maybe Tesla. Tesla, we talk about how advanced their manufacturing facilities are. They apparently do offer factory tours, but only for Tesla owners, and you need to like book them in advance. Mm-hmm. I just, they're not open to the general public, and I just thought maybe that's something they could use right now.
This guy doesn't even want to hire a PR intern.
Yeah.
So that does not surprise me.
I mean, maybe if you like tell him that you let him in the door, but they got to take some sort of engineering prowess test, and then he can hire him on the spot or something like that. Like it's got to work for him economically as well. But I mean, we've all been on those factory tours, and we've actually, some of the videos that remain some of our most popular on our YouTube channel are just videos of machines working.
No, I know. And nothing makes a product more interesting than seeing how it's made. Even the most banal, uninteresting products that you're just like, okay, here we go. Like I went to a contract manufacturer once. They made the tubes that are in breathalyzers.
Yeah.
So cool.
Oh, I know.
Never would have thought that would be cool, but every time you're in a factory and seeing it, it's like fascinating.
No, I know I've talked about it on the podcast before, but like working at the silicone injection molding facility, and now anytime I see a soap dispenser, I know one of the components that's in it, and it's just it creates a different part of the story.
For sure.
And Jeff, people have reached out to all of us directly ever since you mentioned the Cheeto, and how the Cheeto off the line was the best one, and like people are clamoring to be able to get there and try that Cheeto off the line, like. Real opportunity, like reopen Rancho Cucamonga and just let people in.
Got to get there.
I would honestly rather go to that than like Legoland with my kids. Just like, let's get Cheeto orange everywhere. Like I want some sort of, apparatus, like, those money machines that you get in, only I want to be sprayed with Cheeto dust.
I think the best one that I've been to, I mean, I've been to some really cool factories, but one of the cooler ones too is a cookie bakery. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Those coming off the lines, they're like a contract manufacturer, so can't really say like the stuff that they did and things like that. But man, their version of the chocolate chip or their version of an Oreo, man, right off the line.
Jeff, I went to a casket factory once.
But was it still interesting?
It was, but I mean, of course it was.
Yeah, it was just like, wow, that is really gonna.
You'd rather have some cookies than
somebody a lot of joy.
100%.
But I mean, if I passed a road sign that said casket factory tours every 15 minutes, I'd be like, sorry about your itinerary, hon. We're going to the casket factory.
Yeah, I feel like that's got to be a euphemism for like Sending David on a casket factory tour.
Don't read too much
in return.
Yeah.
Don't read anything into this,
But yeah, you're going on the casket tour. But I mean, even just watching welders work, watching people cut metal, watching those huge machines bend metal, like it's incredible to watch. It's why they invite kids, local kids, to trade shows, right? So they can see those machines work and get them interested. Anyway, sorry. But one thing I wanted to ask for the people listening is that if you have factory tours that you've been on that are pretty cool, let us know, because, I'm always looking for another one. All right, our next most popular story. Nike soars on production shift away from China, but it warns of $1 billion tariff hit. Last Friday, Nike shares jumped at the opening bell after the company promised to move some production away from China. Then the company quickly warned that the tariffs will cost it about $1 billion. Because of the tariffs, Nike will actually have to make, quote, surgical price increases in the U.S. starting this fall. Nike is shifting production to avoid tariffs in China, which works out to about 16% of the footwear that Nike imports into the U.S. This is according to the AP. By the end of fiscal 2026, production is going to be cut to the high single-digit range. So 9? While Nike reportedly had a quarterly profit of $211 million and a revenue of $11.1 billion, consumers are already pulling back on spending, particularly for Nikes. Anna, is part of the problem that consumers are going to hear, quote, Nike leaving China, but aren't going to read past the comma in the headline that says, warns of $1 billion tariff hit?
Yeah, there's a big but there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, when you read this entire story, you see that this is not a clear-cut win for America. The article quotes Neil Saunders, who's the managing director of global data, and he said that in China, the market has slowed. He said Nike is on the back foot after anxiety about the economy is causing consumers to pull back. He also added that we see some anti-U.S. brand sentiment creeping in, which is unhelpful and difficult to resolve.
Mm-hmm.
This matters, especially when you consider that in fiscal 24, Nike's revenue from Greater China was more than $7 billion. Obviously, their North American revenue, which is above $20 billion last year, that's their big piece of the pie. But I think we can all agree that a $7 billion market is one that you don't really want to fool around with, right?
Yeah, with anti-U.S. brand sentiment.
Unhelpful and difficult to resolve. Like that nicely sums it up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And, that's just a challenge that many global brands are facing, not just Nike and not just in China.
Yeah.
And to put a finer point on that phenomenon, an April analysis from Goldman Sachs said that rising anti-U.S. sentiment could cost the economy as much as $90 billion this year. And we're hearing multiple companies point to this as a cause for weakening global sales and soft earnings reports. And as Saunders said, there's not much that can be done about that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't change it by making strategic decisions, then many companies are going to look towards cost cutting and raising prices.
Mm-hmm.
So raising prices, they already discussed.
Surgically.
Surgically.
They're going to surgically raise prices on all of them.
Right. And then cost cutting is, when we see the job cuts and the layoffs and all that stuff, the temporary shutdowns, the shuttering. So I don't know. I don't know why you would see this news. Nike picks more expensive location to produce their products and the stock goes up. That's just
because that's what manufacturers do.
Right.
Yeah. Nike leaves China. Woo!
Right, exactly.
Set to lose $1 billion.
I know. And so you got to read the fine print here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot more to it, and they have a $1 billion hit to make up, and we have to figure out where that's going to come from.
Yeah, it's on my feet right now. That's what happened. The other point that Saunders had was that Nike's already facing a, quote, boredom factor. And I was just like, I mean, what does that mean? I mean, I understand that because, I'm buying Nikes, so I'm, single-handedly helping kill the brand and any cool factor that it might have. But apparently this boredom factor has settled over the Nike brand, and the spotlight is now firmly on other labels, especially in terms of fashion and design. Saunders said that, quote, it has also lost ground in key categories such as running, where others have led in terms of technical functions and forms. So not only are they losing a huge potential pool of consumers, but like the ones they already have think they're not cool anymore. I mean, it's a real list of problems that Nike faces, Jeff. And I mean, overcoming one of those would be difficult. But I mean, I think that Nike is kind of facing some significant challenges going forward here.
Yeah, I mean, the sales, that's like a different issue kind of entirely. I mean, there's some people that are very loyal to Nike and are always going to be there. But when you throw in cost and you don't see a difference in quality, that becomes a bigger issue too. And then when you ask somebody, well, why did you buy this other brand instead of Nike? They don't always say just because of the cost. They point to some of these other factors as well. So there's a lot of different things at play there. You know, you enjoy those NTSB briefings.
Yeah.
One of the things I can nerd out on a little bit once in a while is when companies show where their stuff is made.
Oh, yeah.
So if you like this type of thing, I'd encourage you to go to manufacturingmap.nikeinc.com.
Okay.
And you can see where Nike makes all their stuff.
Yeah.
Now, they don't own these facilities. It's just where they have it made.
Yeah.
Do you know which country has the most Nike facilities, if you had to guess?
Russia.
No. It's Vietnam.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. One of the smallest countries on the list that they source from. The U.S. actually has 27 of these facilities. Now, I think they're being very generous. When they use the term manufacturing, I think this is as much distribution or, you know,
there are 27
packaging.
Nike facilities in Vietnam?
In the U.S.
Oh, in the U.S.
Which
Sorry,
I was
sorry.
surprised at. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't even think there'd be that many.
Yeah.
There's over 140 in Vietnam,
Oh.
which, again, not a large country.
Yeah.
So it's a big part of their supply chain, obviously. And right now, there's a 20% tariff on Vietnam.
Yeah.
Now, if you're Nike and you're shifting out of China, which is the second largest producer for them,
Yeah.
and you're going to other places like Vietnam, Indonesia, whatever, how soon before the administration pivots and says, oh, it was China we were focused on, now it's Vietnam.
Yeah.
Vietnam, you're going to get hit with your 50 to 60% tariff, or Indonesia, or Mexico, or wherever it is that Nike is manufacturing. The point being, Nike can pivot as much as they want to in trying to find other places. How do they know that they're not going to be dealing with the same issue in a couple of years? And they're not the only manufacturer that's thinking that way.
Yeah.
And that's where these price hikes come in, because they're not just insulating themselves now, they have to think down the road. That's why we haven't seen as severe a price increase yet, because companies saw this coming and they outsourced before all the tariffs hit and brought a lot of materials or products in beforehand. I think the overlying theme here for me, and I know I've said this too many times before, is there's so much uncertainty, and that creates volatility, that creates stress and strain and anxiety throughout the supply chain where manufacturers don't know what to do, and that gets passed along to consumers. We're going to talk about this in a little bit more too in terms of the impact that's having, because even if the prices don't hit, consumers know it's coming, or they're convinced it's coming, and they're already starting to plan and cut back accordingly.
Yeah.
So that's the big issue we're having, again, when you don't take a surgical approach to these tariffs.
Yeah.
When it is an umbrella and it hits everything, people scramble. They don't know what to do. And they're just going to keep hopping along.
Have you been surprised that we're still kind of in this like time of trepidation where like nothing has really fallen down? We've just seen people pull back, and we've seen sort of the beginning of potential bubbles popping. But like, to me, I guess I've been surprised that something hasn't fallen yet.
Well, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I think we're going to see it in the near future, because two of the bigger areas where the economy has always appreciated a bit of a boost is back to school, number one. I think we're going to see a big hit there when it comes to back to school spending, because things are going to be more expensive. So as opposed to buying 2 shirts and 3 pair of pants, maybe it's 1 pair of pants and 2 shirts, or whatever the case may be. Same thing with school supplies.
Yeah.
Schools are already taking some measures there. You'd think it would also come along with stuff like consumer electronics, computers, smart tablets, calculators, all that kind of stuff.
Well, and Walmart has already said back to school is going to be more expensive. They have been clear about that.
Well, and so it'll be back to school and then probably Christmas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. We've already seen that with the toy makers and a lot of other things. Those were always nice booms for the economy. I don't think they're going to hit the same way that they have in the past to sort of bail things out or even things out from drops in other parts, other time periods.
Nike just needs to get a little more creative about how, people are like, well, proudly designed with American soul, I mean,
now you sound like the Trump cell phone pitch, right?
I mean, I had to hear it somewhere.
Yeah.
And really, they'll probably go after Vietnam once they've diversified their portfolio more into footwear. Our top story this week, Musk's top lieutenant departs Tesla unexpectedly. One of Tesla's executive officers has left the company. Forbes says that CEO Elon Musk fired Omid Afshar, the head of operations in Europe and North America. Bloomberg said he, quote, left the company. Neither report disclosed a reason for the departure, and neither Tesla, Musk, or Afshar have commented on the development. According to his LinkedIn profile, Afshar says he had worked with Tesla's, quote, Office of the CEO since 2017 when he joined as a project manager. Last October, Bloomberg cited sources who said that Musk had promoted Afshar to lead Tesla's operations in Europe and North America. He also spent some time at Musk's SpaceX in 2022. Anna, is this just the head that needed to roll? A sacrifice to the shareholder gods as proof that Musk is righting the ship?
It might be. I mean, it's really hard to know when you have someone as volatile as Elon Musk at the head of this, what exactly happened here. It is easy to want to look at something like this and think maybe something dramatic occurred because it's Tesla. But I think we could take away from this maybe just a good old-fashioned management shakeup that's a reaction to Tesla's mounting problems. A few days after we ran this story, Tesla reported that it delivered 384,122 vehicles during the second quarter, a 59,000 and something unit year-over-year decline. So that amounts to about a 13.5% slide.
Yeah.
According to Autoblog, Tesla's first quarter finances received a nearly $600 million boost from selling clean air credits to rivals whose vehicles exceeded pollution limits. Now, this has long been a strategy for Tesla to boost its earnings, is in selling these carbon credits essentially because of their portfolio. Other companies get these big fines if they don't have these carbon credits and they don't sell enough EVs or whatever.
Yeah.
So they buy them from Tesla. And unfortunately for Tesla, and this has been kind of in the works for a while, but lawmakers are working on ways of kind of lowering this requirement, which would increase financial pressure on Tesla at absolutely the worst time.
Yeah.
Because they've really been kind of hiding behind carbon trading for years. Now, I think we all know that a management shakeup is likely, unless it involves the chief executive, who feels like almost untouchable at this point. So something has to be done here. And I don't know. I mean, you saw yesterday, today, whatever, Musk announced he's starting a new political party, and Tesla's stock, last I checked, was down like 7% or something just based on that news alone. Like, he is
the America Party, which isn't libertarian, but it kind of exactly like it.
But these Tesla shareholders, they're just along for this very, very tumultuous ride. And if nothing is going to be done to the top person, which it seems increasingly it's not, then somebody takes a hit, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you know who consumers and the public at large really didn't have a problem with at Tesla? Omid Afshar. He wasn't the one. He wasn't the one that, according to an AP poll, showed that about half of U.S. adults have an unfavorable opinion of Tesla, including 30% of Republicans. They didn't. There wasn't any follow-up polling, but I think it stands to reason
mention
that. Yeah, they were just like, this Afshar guy's got to go.
I'll tell you what I didn't like: him replacing his job title with a emoji of a cowboy hat. If someone polled me,
that doesn't inspire confidence, and
if someone polled me, I would say that I was not in favor of that.
Yeah,
disapprove.
Yeah, it's we're entering this time of like, come up with your own title, and it's just like, what if it was just an emoji?
What if it's like like this cowboy vibe?
Work for Prince.
Because my role here is not so much, you can't put a label on it. It's more of a feeling.
A feeling.
It's
a
feeling. Jeff, if you were to change your title to an emoji, what would it be? And
Lightsaber.
Oh, geez. That was, great. That would, yeah.
Watching Star Wars over the break.
Your business card is just a lightsaber.
Just a lightsaber.
You know what to do. But as Anna kind of said, this news broke after we got another dismal sales report from Tesla. And I just don't think that this is the kind of management shakeup that gives anybody any more confidence.
So I'll try to look at this the way maybe a typical or traditional company might handle things. And I know that's not always the case with Tesla, but there's sort of that analogy where you can't fire the owner. Mm-hmm. You can only fire so much of the team. So if you're going to make a change, you look at the coach. Mm-hmm. And the reality is when it comes to those markets, Tesla's losing bad.
Yeah.
And they've got more competition coming at them. All those aforementioned companies in China, those are markets, especially Europe, that they are targeting very heavily.
Yeah.
So if you're losing there, who are you going to replace? And if you do need to send a message to employees and to the company at large, this guy was with Musk through a lot.
Yeah.
Even worked with him at SpaceX.
He worked on that random
the glass house thing.
The glass house project, yeah.
Yeah. So all of those things. So this guy, he was known within that building.
Yeah.
Okay. So it does send a message. It does shake things up. It does say, hey, this is for real. We got to do things. We have to get things moving in the right direction. Mm-hmm. Again, it's not a traditional company, so we don't know.
Yeah.
But you could see how this might play a role in that respect. If other companies, that would be the move that they would make, and it would make sense.
It's something in your pocket to your defense, I guess.
But it makes sense at any other company where there are more than just one figurehead that is causing.
You need more hands on the wheel.
Yeah.
So from outsiders, this is probably concerning.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I would hope those were the tactics. The things I just described were the reasons why this was done.
Yeah.
Not just
Jeff,
an egomaniacal overlord of EVs
God.
Making his choices.
Yeah. You know what could save this sinking ship or bricked EV, I guess, metaphor? A banging tour. You get people out there. You just start with one tour, 7 people a week, and then you just slowly start.
But it would have to be robot guided, and then the robot's going to hit somebody. Oh, man,
it would be guided by a human. Optimus could guide it.
Optimus would end up smacking somebody, or...
You sign a release. If Optimus crushes you, that's bad on you for being too close.
Well, now you sound like Elon Musk.
Well, I'm trying to work with it.
It's never the humans, or it's always the human's fault. It's never the robot.
Yeah, they call it human error, not robot error. All right. Well, before we jump into, in case you missed it, we have another word from our new sponsor, Redzone. This week's episode is brought to you by Redzone. Watching employees walk away shortly after spending ample resources training them is incredibly frustrating. And while harder to spot, unengaged or unproductive employees also negatively impact the return on labor investment. Well, a new webinar from Redzone features experts who discuss the roots of high turnover in manufacturing, how successful leaders support growth for employees, and methods for improving operational visibility. So watch the webinar, How Coil Specialist Tackled Employee Reliability by, quote, leading well. Right now, there's a link to it in the live chat and in the body copy. In case you missed it, stories not as popular on our websites, but still stand to make a big impact on the industry going forward. Anna, what do you have for us this week?
So I picked a story titled Lululemon Sues Costco for Selling Dupes. I picked this story because we just covered a knockoff story in previous weeks where we were looking at the packaging issue for Aldi cookies and whether or not they could win in court for being an obvious...
Being an obvious copy, yeah.
Yeah. So Lululemon, which is a high-end kind of a lifestyle brand.
Mm-hmm. They do comfy pants.
Very expensive comfy pants.
Yeah.
And they are accusing Costco of what they are calling dupes of their high-end clothing that Costco is selling under the Kirkland brand. So the article says that Lululemon alleges that Costco is known to use... Tell me if this sounds familiar to you, Costco shoppers, right? Costco is known to use manufacturers of popular branded products for its private label Kirkland brand. The company and the manufacturers don't tell consumers of the connection between them for many of the Kirkland branded products. Because of this, Lululemon claims this leads at least some shoppers to believe that Kirkland branded products are made by the authentic supplier of the original products, Lululemon claims Costco doesn't try to dispel the ambiguity. What is Costco to do here? Explain to its customers the difference here to help Lululemon somehow justify the price difference?
Yeah.
I
Do
just
they call them like Kirkland limes? I'm just curious. There's got to be something like, the cheesy generic name.
Yeah. So one of the hoodies has it's called like a scuba hoodie on Lululemon, and Costco also uses the word scuba.
Oh, yes.
But to be honest, okay, so this is like word of mouth. You've probably all heard this before about
it's Grey Goose vodka, or is it Kettle One vodka in the Kirkland brand?
But every product they have, everyone says this is actually, nobody knows. I don't understand how Costco, I don't think they have to defend against people's perception that is not being perpetrated by them, And when you look at the stuff, it's like the most basic. It's like sweatshirts and pants, man. Like they have pockets and zippers and 2 holes to put your legs in. That's what pants are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
What do they demand?
Right. I mean, I just think that if you're the high end brand, it's sort of on you to make the case to your customer base that they should pay more for your brand and your quality and your item because it's substantially different than anything else that's out on the market. That's textile fashion. That's the industry, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So if Lululemon can't do that, I think that's kind of on them, but that's just my opinion.
So you're going to dispel this, Jeff?
Well, I would say the one thing, because to your point, it's right next to each other. Like the Kirkland brand is right next to, for me, it's Irish whiskey. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
So we tried the Kirkland Irish whiskey. It is a far inferior product, in my opinion, to Jameson. Okay, so I will pay more for Jameson and continue to do that. And I think I've found that with a lot of other stuff there. I know if I buy a clothing item that's got the Kirkland label on it, it's an inferior product to the brand name. It just is. If it's right next to overruns from Banana Republic or Polo or whatever the other ones are, those are always better quality products. I think that's understood.
Yeah.
So I think Lululemon here, I think they're underselling themselves or not giving themselves enough credit for distinguishing their brand, and maybe not giving consumers enough credit too and knowing the difference.
To basically say it's too hard to tell the difference between our 2 products, and theirs is $20 and ours is $100, right?
Well, I mean, that's fair, but this could also just be Lululemon, a very high ticket item, making sure it stays out in front of consumers as consumers start pulling back, on spending on luxury products. Just like, hey, remember, we're better and we're the best and not them at all. It could just be all press is good press. But I was just kind of curious how many theories there are as to what brands are behind others. There's just lists everywhere in terms of did you know, actually you mentioned the first one, the Scotch at Costco is actually made by Alexander Murray. Kirkland coffee is partly made by Starbucks. Not even sure what's going on there. Partly made, yeah. Green Mountain supplies its K-Cups for the Costco cups. Kirkland tuna, produced by Bumblebee.
What?
Yeah. Did you know Kirkland's signature jelly beans are made by Jelly Belly, even though Jelly Belly's on the label?
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I kind of really get where they're going, but I don't know. Do you think they actually have a chance to? No.
I don't, but
yeah. Their cranberry juice is made by Ocean Spray.
It's a hoodie. It's got a pocket in the front. Every hoodie on earth.
Well, I remember the first time I was introduced to Lululemon pants, and I was like, how much do you pay for these? Because we used to work with somebody that had a real problem with them when they first became a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I remain dumbfounded. It must be really comfy. I don't know if they make a my size lemon.
I don't
pant.
think it's for you, David.
Yeah,
don't think so.
Get leggings.
Yeah,
please.
just next week, just twist. I'm wearing no. They're so comfy.
Stay behind the desk,
Jeff. What? It's it's the straight COVID. What's under the desk question? Just suit on the top of what's going on under there.
We are past that.
Jeff, what's your in case you missed it this week?
Well, pick this story, and I know people they probably are inundated with this type of information right now, but I thought it was interesting when you look at the parallels, because this story came up before the big beautiful bill was passed and all of that, which there's a lot of things going on here. But anyway, the story I picked was the key inflation gauge rose last month while Americans cut back on spending. And we've been talking about this already quite a bit. But a key inflation gauge moved higher in May, and the latest sign that prices remain stubbornly elevated while Americans also cut back on their spending. Prices rose 2.3% in May. And it was basically, it goes on and says a lot of different facts and figures here, some of them which offset each other, so there's some balance. The overwhelming takeaway is 2 points here for me. Number one, anything above 2%, the Fed gets nervous about. Okay, it doesn't like it from an inflationary perspective. So all those things that people are looking for in terms of rates, interest rates coming down, not going to happen until these are not 2 point something. They need to be less than that.
Yeah.
So the other part of this is, the one here that was interesting is that the Fed tracks core inflation because it typically provides a better guide to where inflation is headed. And it also talks about, where's the other? Basically, Americans move more quickly to buy, not that one, sorry. Basically, it talks about people are not spending as much because they're afraid to.
Oh,
They
okay.
don't know where all of this tariff stuff is going. They don't know how it's going to impact back to school shopping, Christmas shopping, everything else that they're going for. We already know food is more expensive. Where does it hit next? Okay. And that's really the mindset of the American consumer right now.
Yeah.
So basically, they're not spending more. They're not buying more. Manufacturers aren't going to be making more. So we can do as much as we want to protect a lot of these different industries with tariffs and other things. It's not going to matter if the American public doesn't feel there's enough transparency that they can trust what's going on in the economy right now. They're spending less. It's already been proven.
Yeah.
Consumer confidence is down. Inflation is up. These are scary things. And this article came out, again, before that bill was passed. Now, the bill's got some things in there that is supposed to, in theory, cut some taxes, give people more money in their pockets, but it's also going to potentially raise medical costs. That's another thing that scares people. So whenever these types of themes come out and the consumer gets scared, that has a huge impact on U.S. manufacturing. And a lot of it goes back to the fact, not that these prices are being seen and realized every day, it's that they don't know. This uncertainty is creating so much volatility in the marketplace that it's hurting things.
Yeah.
We just need more transparency. We need to come out and say, this is what this is going to look like. We are going to stick with these types of tariffs. This is how this is going to hit, so that manufacturers can plan, so they can calm their customers down. Because if we have this much instability, it not only impacts, again, these two booming seasons that we're going to talk about, back to school again. I'm telling you, it's not going to hit like it usually does, and it's going to hurt a lot of manufacturers. Same thing with Christmas. And then next year, we've got midterm elections. These types of things are going to become a huge, huge factor. Just here in Wisconsin, we've got a small district in western Wisconsin that's already heating up. You've got Van Olden, I believe is his name. He's the incumbent. He's going against Rebecca Cook, who's getting more momentum than she should right now, simply because she is a non-Trump individual. So she's against all of these policies. So what's going to happen then again is we've got this volatility from supply chain perspective because of the tariffs, and people are afraid to spend because they think prices are going to go up on things they need every day. And then we're going to have these midterms coming in where all of this pricing and supply chain stuff has been politicized, and potentially more turnover there, more uncertainty is what I'm saying. It's just, I'm not trying to be negative here and paint a gloomy picture, but this is what this is going to look like for the next 18 months, I think. We're going to see these weird ups and downs that we are not going to be able to count on traditional market factors and trajectories and predictions to make good decisions. And it's going to put manufacturers in a really, really tough spot.
Just anecdotally, I have been feeling this in particular when we check out for food. And there have been 2 times now where I've gone to use a coupon and somebody has said the equivalent of, hey, now more than ever, right? And just like at these prices. And it's just, people are angry. They're concerned. Like we're commiserating. And I don't know, something's got to give. At least eggs are, getting better.
And the thing is, it doesn't even matter right now if that's real or not.
Yeah.
It's in the mindset.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And if people are thinking about it and this is how they're acting on a national level, it's concerning.
Anna, when you look at some of these key inflation gauges, what are some of your takeaways?
Well, it's scary because, that's what economists are saying is really the worst case scenario is this term stagflation, where the economy stagnates and inflation persists. And that's kind of what we see here with this reading. So, yeah, concerning for sure. But I definitely, we're talking about like the vibes. Oh, yeah. The cowboy vibes, whatever. But I
cowboy vibes are off.
But I'm with you. Like I feel the vibes too, where I just feel kind of this compulsion to take a upbeat and see what's next, because it's really hard to see around that corner. As you said, it's like very opaque as to what happens next, and it makes people nervous.
Well, in case you missed it this week, I chose something a little bit more uplifting, or, just a little, maybe it'd be a good thing. So I picked the story, Eaton's Factories as a Grid approach is advancing energy security. So Eaton recently introduced its Factories as a Grid approach. It's a part of Eaton's Everything as a Grid perspective. These Factories as a Grid can help manufacturers simplify the electrification of critical processes while improving energy efficiency, ensuring a constant supply of uninterrupted power, and reducing operational costs by being smarter about producing and consuming electrical power. The strategy hinges on the scaled implementation of intelligent power management solutions. Eaton is demonstrating its Factories as a Grid approach at a Puerto Rico manufacturing facility that makes circuit breakers for homes, buildings, and industrial applications. This project integrates on-site solar generation, energy storage, and intelligent digital solutions into a microgrid that is cutting operational costs, energy consumption, and emissions. So I think it's pretty straightforward why I picked this story, right? I think it is. I always love proof of concepts. I always love pilots and trying to see where things could go from that as a result, right? So, for example, you could have improved resilience using proven microgrid technology, on-site renewable energy generation, and energy storage to support this, quote, always-on power during grid interruptions, which we're seeing more and more of. Reduced energy costs through the ability to react to real-time grid conditions and strategically produce, store, and consume electricity generated on site. Improve energy efficiency and equipment performance by using Eaton's Bright Layer portfolio that delivers real-time and actionable insights. And I think projects like this need to be more popular with our readers, right? Where it's just like Factories as a Grid. What does that mean for me in going forward? And we talk about like reliability when it comes to power, when it comes to grid sustainability. And I think projects like this go a long way in getting getting buy-in from the, B2B side of things as well. Just, all right, we saw how you did it in Puerto Rico, which, I mean, is a pretty volatile area, too, in terms of when it comes to climate and other threats that it faces. And I don't know. I'm really encouraged by this project. I look forward to seeing how it comes out. And, the people that might take a page from Eaton and use it going forward. Jeff, I don't know if you had a chance to check out this story, but your thoughts on the Factories as a Grid.
I think the microgrid stuff is very exciting for a couple of reasons. Number one, the strain it takes off of the grid.
Yeah,
it's great. It also just all the things that we want from any type of manufacturing operation in terms of resiliency, the ability to reduce downtime, all of those things, as well as the efficiency perspective in terms of building on and sort of the proof of concept dynamic in terms of enhancing the technology so it can be used in other places. The other thing is really when you look at it from a cybersecurity perspective, really a lot of these facilities, by use of these microgrids, are insulating themselves in a lot of ways. Critical infrastructure is a huge target right now when it comes to a lot of state-sponsored actors and things of that nature. So you're also eliminating some of that risk in this type of approach. So the microgrids, I think, for a number of reasons, are really exciting to look at and hopefully see more of it.
Well, and Anna, with projects like this, I like it because manufacturers have a lot of skin in the game, right? Where it's just like, here it is. Here's how all of our technology is used in every potential spot. And then, you can either take it, the full plan, and use it going forward, or you can piecemeal it, right? You can use the real-time response layer, that helps identify some of these critical areas. You can use all, or you can use none of it, or you can use some of it. You could just use it to make informed decisions about what you're going to build out in your factory going forward. What were your thoughts on this story?
Yeah, definitely. And we've seen this type of approach come from, especially at this time, from electrical distributors, from utilities, from OEMs like Eaton, who really are experts in this area. But their end customers need the help. They need someone who can take a really integrated project-based approach and tell them exactly what to do from A to Z.
Yeah.
And I think that to your point, like if you want to see more adoption of this type of stuff, reach out to these companies because, like you said, they can do, you know, a smaller scale version based on what your priority is. Is it uptime? Is it sustainability? Is it energy efficiency? What is it that you want?
Yeah.
And they'll help you figure out how to do it. But, you know, a lot of these companies, they go into it and they're like, the technology has improved so immensely in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
How do I do this? Well, they'll tell you how.
No, that's a really good point about partnering with manufacturers as well. Just because, you know, we've seen that on the design product development side a lot, where people have just been leaning on these product designers a lot more because they don't have the in-house engineering staff to help get it done. And so it just makes a lot of sense to reach out and get help and see how it might be able to improve your operations as well. All right. Well, before we get out of here, final thoughts. Anna, back to you. What is your final thought this week?
So we wrapped up our trip out west this week, and there are a few things on our itinerary that I thought our kids would be like, give a giant yawn to.
Yeah.
And so one of those was Mount Rushmore, and the other was Crazy Horse. I thought they would not be into the monuments, but we went to them anyway.
Yeah.
And they were into it. And, you know, I had read recently that some of the old school family vacations are kind of not as popular anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to Disney. Stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody wants to go and spend an entire year's mortgage.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and they're just not as exciting, I guess. I don't know for what
fair.
Kids are used to nowadays. But what I'm telling you is you should try it anyway.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, our kids are 7 and 10, and they were just actually fascinated by all the stuff and the scale of these mountain carvings. They just thought it was so cool. And I was like, it impressed me that they were so into it. I think you just got to give kids a chance to show you what they'll do, you know, what they'll be into if you let them. So
no, it is crazy how like biases and like, you know, what your expectations are going into it. And then, you know, when you're surprised, where you're just like, oh boy, here we go.
I know.
All right, we're going to show
Not
them the big rock
Legoland.
carving. Yeah.
They took like 1 million pictures and just we were so into it. It was cute. So
my final thought is just that with the time off, we actually kind of took a page from one of your recent final thoughts and just kind of we're tourists in our own town and wander around the city having some really good time with just myself and the boys. And it was a lot of fun just checking out things that we typically wouldn't. And you know that I understand that the realities of work maybe don't make it possible for you to get a full week off with your family. But even if you get a day, even if you get a half a day and you can spend it with your kids, they truly do appreciate it. And while in the moment when everyone's screaming at each other, you're just like, what have I done? And I'll never do it again. But then the next morning at cereal or when you're making breakfast, they're just like, I had a really good day yesterday. And you're like, did you? So you don't remember how it ended? Good. It was a wonderful day for me too. But you know what? Just take any time that you can. And when you get that sort of focused one-on-one time with your kids or your family, you know, it's really worth it. Jeff, your final thought.
Madison has some really cool museums that take like 20 minutes to go through.
Yeah.
But the kids always love them. Final thought. So we had a project at the house, remodeling project. We redid our bedroom, and my wife was not ecstatic about this once we got going. It was super disruptive because sleeping in my daughter's room, you know, clothes in 3 different places, couldn't get into the shower, that kind of stuff. But once it was done,
Yeah.
which I kept saying, once this is done, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
And guess what? I was right.
Oh, no.
So everybody out there who's leading the charge on the project and your partner's like, I don't know about this, stick to your guns. Just keep reassuring them because you're right, just like me.
But
wow,
boom.
Trev.
But the important part is that everyone
That I was right.
See, he's not used to that feeling, so he has to talk about it.
I just wanted to give you like a chance to walk it back just even a little bit.
No,
And
I put up with so much crap during this week. No, when she's like, wow, this is pretty nice.
You know what?
Yeah, it is. I told you.
You know what? It is. It's real nice.
Yeah.
No, that was.
Wonder who was saying that for the past week and a half.
I'm glad that you made it to the other side of that because, you know, we're all creatures of habit. And when something gets disrupted, like you realize how stressful it can actually get when on paper, you're just like, We're just getting our clothes in the other room. I don't understand.
Right.
But I'm glad you guys made it, and I'm happy for you.
And we'll see what happens now.
I'm not sure about it. Maybe we'll do a special edit that we send her way. All right. Well, before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at IN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily and weekly newsletters. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. Just give us a thumbs up. Give us a positive review. Give us anything positive on anything. Helps us with the algorithm because, we're all slaves to that now. All right. For Jeff Reinke and Anna Wells, I'm David Manti. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast, and we will see you next week.